Okay, we're live.
Yay!
Yay!
We're live.
We are all gathered here today to celebrate the union of us podcasters of Talk Horror to Me and this phenomenal author. I don't know where you are on their screen.
Can you see
wherever
me?
he is.
Wherever I am.
Yes. His name is Mark Iveson.
Right there.
Phenomenal author. Scene. I don't know where you are on this.
There's the echo.
Hi, Mark.
Okay.
It's like,
And today we are.
Yeah,
what is
it's
the
really
movie we are
echoing really bad.
discussing?
Do I have an echo?
Somebody's got an echo.
hi, Mark.
Stop me.
Goes.
Yeah. Like, I think everybody that does echo.
The joys of
Oh, yeah. I can that.
live broadcast.
Yeah, technology.
Hold on. Okay, and it's kind of laggy.
Yeah, it's laggy, very laggy.
Man, that's why I wanted to record. Yeah. Okay, so it's Witchfinder General. So you want to tell us about it, Mark? I was.
I'm happy to tell it, yes. I'll have it. Hi there. For anyone in the States, because I'm not even well known in England. So, my name's Mark Iveson, and I am the author. I've got the shameless advertising here. My first book, First Ghost Horror Stars, Vincent Price, The British Connection, and we're discussing, because I just watched it the other day, Witchfinder General. Oh, I was talking a bit about hell that. Somebody's gone missing. Hey, someone's bored already. They've just disappeared.
No.
Okay, Witchfinder General. It's actually based on a historical novel by Robert Bassett with the same name, and it's actually a fictional account of one of Britain's most notorious witchfinders during the Civil War between Charles I and Oliver Cromwell. And notorious but around the East Anglia area, he persecuted being over 120 women, nearly most of them being witches. And the film is very based on it because Matthew discredited, and then he died of tuberculosis at the age of 27. So really, the film is quite fictional, but it's set there. So what we see with Witchfinder General is again the story of Hopkins doing what he's doing, but there's a subplot between a young couple who fall foul of the dreaded Matthew Hopkins. What made it interesting was it became the film itself considered one of the great.
Laggy.
Yeah, one of the greatest British films ever made. It's regarded as it, and in 1968 it was quite violent at this time. It really was quite.
So it must be really popular over there.
Really hot. Or was that this?
It's really hard to hear.
Is it hard? Can you hear me?
Can you all hear? Can you all hear?
I can hear you.
I had to take mine off of Wi-Fi and just
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of chopping when you try to talk, Mark. There's a lot of robotic chop.
Really? All right.
Yeah.
I best bet I don't have any headphones. My bad.
So, on your Wi-Fi was messing up?
Mine was.
All right. Can we all hear me now?
It's okay.
So, shall I start again?
But, okay.
I picked up on what you said.
I can hear you a little bit.
Yeah, okay. I can hear myself great, but I'm just sitting here.
Did you, Carly? Well, you left.
I will shout. I haven't got a bullhorn.
But, so, in the movie, so you got to see the screen, like, do a quick question and answer of the movie?
I was. Okay, I'll speak as slowly as possible for you to hear me very well. I was It was a few years ago. There's a group on Facebook called Horror Vision Northeast, and they're in association with another group called Screen Age Kicks. It's run by the same guy, a guy called Chris Atkinson. And we set up a special screening at the Castle Keep, which is in Newcastle city centre. It's an actual castle, part of a castle. So
I actually know where that is. I'm a history major, so I actually know where that is.
I've done several book talks there. It's great, even though it's cold. So what they did was they did a special screening of Witchfinder General. And it was a lot of fun because, I mean, we were in the main hall. Of course, the projector screen's up and we got everything ready.
Nice.
And there's, I have a friend of mine called David Silk who does military, like military reenactments. You know all the medieval conflicts.
Yeah. What kind? Like what kind of reenactments? I'm sorry, I'm a history buff, so especially English.
That's great.
History, I can ask all sorts of questions.
We had a historian. that was part of it as well. I'll tell you later. But what David and his cronies did, they all dressed up in kind of 16th century costumes, and he started accusing people of being witches. So, as a start, then we saw the movie, and then after the film was finished, they set things up for a Q&A. Now, I was part of a Q&A with a science fiction writer called Stephen Laws and a historian by the name of Jo Bath, she's a friend of mine. And she was there in the costume, she had a costume on as well, and she gave a brilliant insight about what it was like in Cromwell, England, during the time of the Witchfinder, because it was the English Civil War. Law and order had practically collapsed, so basically the laws were put into the hands of the village magistrates. And up until then, witches were never persecuted. They were never persecuted during the Middle Ages or anything like that. So if anyone watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail,
oh my gosh, yes.
that never happened.
Yeah.
They never burnt witches.
I have.
They never burnt witches. In actual fact, they only ever burnt witches in France and Scotland. In England, we just hung them.
Well, that's comforting.
Very misogynistic. If a woman murdered her husband, then she got burnt at the stake.
Still comforting.
Matthew Hopkins did. He just went around torturing women into confessing to being witches and then hanging them later. Apart from one woman, she got burnt at the stake because she said she used witchcraft to kill her husband, so therefore she was set on fire. But that's what it was. It was a weird time. Weird time.
So it floats like a duck.
Yeah. Well, that's what it was. So with Witchfinder General, it was It was initially, like I said, it was based on a fictional novel about Matthew Hopkins, and I'm still okay. You can still hear me clearly. And it was a British film producer called Tony Tenser. He had a company called Tygon Films, and they he bought the film rights to the book. He thought it'd be a great idea to, it can make it into a really good film, and they got on board a very young director called Micheal Reeves. Reeves was born into wealth. He was very wealthy, but he was a massive film buff. He was a bit like the Quentin Tarantino of his day. He just knew his movies. And one of his closest friends was the actor Ian Ogilvy, who lives in California. He's still going. He's still alive. And his first film, he became an assistant to Don Siegel. Basically, he flew all the way to Hollywood, went up to meet Don Siegel, saying, "I love your films and all that." And he was given a job, and he moved up the ranks. And he did his first feature was an Italian horror film called Revenge of the Blood Beast. He did with Ian Ogilvy. Ogilvy appears in all three of the movies. And then his next film was produced by Tygon, called The Sorcerers with Boris Karloff, probably one of Karloff's best later roles.
Oh, what's that
success. The Sorcerers. Sorcerers, yeah. A quick overview. Karloff plays a disgraced hypnotist, and him and his wife, played by Catherine Lacey, who's absolutely scary in this, invent a device where they can experience the sensations of, from someone else. So they experiment on Ian Ogilvy's poor young bored young man, so he can go out and do everything he wants to his heart's content, and they experience it all. But Catherine Lacey's character kind of like wants to do a bit more, and she ends up kind of like driving the man to kill. So it's a great movie, and it was one of Carlos, I think, one of his best later films. And then Reeves was offered the chance to direct Witchfinder General, and he wrote the script with a chap called Tom Baker, and it's not the Tom who plays Doctor Who. Not that Tom Baker, if you're familiar with Doctor Who. Louis Ogilvy,
I am not a Whovian.
I love Doctor
I'm
Who.
sorry.
I used to be a bit of a Whovian, but not so much now. He just said about Tom Baker, he said, not the actor Tom Baker, according to Ian Ogilvy. This Tom Baker was a quiet, self-effacing man, which cannot be said for the actor. And he did a script, and what happened was he needed a larger budget, so he went to a co-production deal with American International Pictures. They did all the Edgar Allan Poe films with directed by Roger Corman and starring Vincent Price. So they got a co-production deal, and the idea was they do it under the condition that Price plays Matthew Hopkins. So that was in the deal. And there was only one slight problem. Michael Reeves did not want Price. He'd initially wanted Karloff, but Karloff was nearly 80 and really not in the best physical shape to play the part. And so he offered Donald Pleasance. We all know Dr. Loomis from Halloween. He was offered the job, but he couldn't take it because they insisted you've got to have Price. What they wanted was someone who could play an ineffectual little man, but instead he got Vincent Price, who was tall, imposing, good-looking, and Reeves didn't want him. And he just made it clear to Price from the start: I don't want you. I've never wanted you. I'm stuck with you. And basically, it led to a rather good relationship. I mean, initially, Price, when he heard about this young man, came over and said, "Hey, take me to your goddamn boy genius." When he arrived at Heathrow Airport, and he found out it was the guy just did not like him, and he was pushing because we all know Price likes to camp it up in movies. What he wanted to do was get something serious out of him. So it was a very, very serious performance. It was really, really strong stuff. And this is what we all experienced when we all at the castle. So and it turned out to be because Reeves wanted to make it tough, compromising. The violence had to be violence. If you watch a Western, everyone just throws punches at each other, get chucked out the windows. I always wondered with the Wild West, was there any double glazing salesmen? Because, they must have made an absolute fortune, repairing windows in saloons and stuff like that. And just show when you get hit in the face, what he wanted, what kind of compromising kind of mood for the film. And he also wanted Matthew Hopkins to be a supporting character to the characters. Ian Ogilvy and Hilary Dwyer. There was Hilary Dwyer died from COVID-19. That's a shame. And so what you see there, I mean, you've seen the film yourself. What Hopkins wants to do is, he likes his women, as you noticed, and he'll just do extreme measures women and men as well into confessing. It is a pretty grim movie. See there.
Man, it makes me kind of want to rewatch it again, just to get a better understanding.
Yeah, I suppose when you look at it back, Can
you all hear me, or is it still like?
Yeah, it was 1968. I mean, if you watch it now, violence has changed. We only got to watch it. Recently, I watched Scarface. When I first watched Scarface as a kid, I was absolutely shocked and surprised at the bad language and the violence. I've watched it since. It's kind of. I even watched Friday the 13th not long ago. It's quite fun, actually.
I love Scarface. It's not really an accurate. Yeah, it is great, but it's not really an accurate movie. I'm sorry. I spend a lot of time with gangsters for my recent novels, so it's like anytime I start seeing people like, oh, these gangster romances and all that, I'm like, nope.
Well, the old saying goes, if you want realism, don't go to the movies.
Yeah, definitely.
Simply, you watch the news. That's where you want realism.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
And but Michael Reeves wanted to say realism in Witchfinder General. He wanted to depict what was going on in the English Civil War. It just wasn't. It was just a nasty business. And unfortunately, he had to rewrite the part to make Matthew Hopkins more of a central character because he had a star. and they had to work that way. And Price, for all it was worth, he was always a professional. Did what he was told. He was very much like a trooper. It was said he always, the local hotel in Lavenham, where my friend Stephen Laws showed some holiday slides, vacation slides of Lavenham, and it hasn't changed a bit, apart from one supermarket being built there. It looks exactly what it was like in the film. You've seen the scenes. You've seen the film. It was all on location. And all around East Anglia. It's really, I'd like to go there and see what it's like. Anyway,
that would be nice.
I've given my little bit of the movie. What made it interesting was it when it was released. You can imagine the critical reaction was something was diverse, to put it mildly, because either they loved the film or they hated it, both in Britain and in America. Because they found the whole thing a bit too dark and a bit too distressing. And it was said, if it's mentioned in my book on Vincent Price, Alan Bennett, the playwright, wrote a letter to the Times saying how disgusted he was at the film. He just felt like he had to wash the dirt off his hands just because of experiencing that movie. Which to Michael Reeves said, well, that's the idea.
Wow.
Reaction might not have been a good reaction, but a reaction all the same. It was a huge commercial success because American National Pictures were in the co-production deal. They were also a releasing company, and they released it under the name of The Conqueror Worm, which is based on a Edgar Allan Poe poem. It's got nothing to do with Poe. They just felt the American market. They loved all the Poe pictures with Price, and they marketed it like that, which really was I don't see what was wrong with Witchfinder General. I think it's a perfectly good title. And it was just like one of these movies. So Price gave one of his best performances of the time. When he saw the end result, he was really impressed, and he kind of did patch things up a little bit with Michael Reeves. But unfortunately, this is the tragic part of it. I mean, Michael Reeves was only 25. It was his third film. It was the film that really elevated him. So you could say Hollywood could have beckoned, went on to bigger things.
Right.
But unfortunately, he despite his wealth, and also the fact he was a great-looking guy, he had a beautiful girlfriend, but he battled severely with mental health problems. He was manic depressive, and certainly showed in his, according to behind the scenes of the film, people could tell he was really struggling with a lot of issues, and it led to a lot of unrealized projects, and a couple of films he was going to do that he had to be removed from. He was due to direct Vincent Price's next film, The Oblong Box. But only after a few days shooting, he was replaced by somebody else. And then in January 1969, he was found dead by his housekeeper from an overdose of barbiturates.
Oh.
And they did the open verdict. Was it suicide or was it accidental?
Wow.
You could say a lot of his friends, including his old friend Ian Ogilvy, disputes that claim because, he was a wealthy guy. He had a massive career ahead of him. But he was on uppers and downers. He had, Harley Street doctors was just, money grabbers. So he was put on pills to wake him up, pills to make him sleep, pills to make him go for a walk, all that kind of stuff. So the fact that it may have been suicidal I don't think it was suicidal. It was certainly accidental. But it was always been an open verdict. So we had to leave the question, how would Michael Reeves fared,
Wow.
the director, after that film? Because it was a massive success, which he was, to be honest, not very comfortable with with the success, because he found himself being pigeonholed into doing more horror films. It was just kind of really, really, it was a really terrible time for him. So I wouldn't like to think, and I'm sure that, after watching the movie, it was just kind of, you can see the talent that was involved, how good he was with some of the stuff he'd done. I've got the everything restored. I don't know what versions you've seen. I've got the one where all the scenes that were cut from the original release are now back again, including a woman being burnt. Was that in any of the versions that you saw?
I don't remember. I'd have to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a scene that was not in the original, and then it was put into for the version I now have.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
that's
Now I know Amazon Prime has a version.
I just watched the one that's on YouTube.
I would check the one on Amazon Prime because I think they have more of the original stream versions. I'm not entirely sure about that, but from what I've seen, there's a lot of movies that I had seen that didn't have, or they have like the director's cut or something. So I might have to check.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I'm curious now because I watched the YouTube one too, and I was like, okay, so other than it horrendously lagging, on my end at least, I'm curious now to see if there's any difference between YouTube and.
So, what are your thoughts about the movie? Whichever version that you saw.
Go ahead, Carly.
It was really hard for me to get into. It's just, it wasn't my type of horror there.
Yeah.
It's a different type of horror. It's not like about vampires and werewolves and zombies.
Exactly.
You know, you can see.
Yeah, you saw the real human factor, and that's actually something I liked about it. I do apologize, I fell asleep, but everyone here knows what's going on here. So,
it's okay.
But I'm gonna have to rewatch it because you've got me thinking. And as a history major, I would probably appreciate, and this is probably why you probably had a problem, Carly, is because I can appreciate the historical value of it. And I think that's just not something that some people can appreciate in horror, is the historical horror aspect. And a lot of times if you remove that supernatural facet of horror, some folks are like, I don't really want to finish this, but if you have to really read into human horror to pick up the horror.
Well, you know, it actually sort of began, well, I think folk horror, British folk horror was popular with films like Night of the Demon, and with Witchfinder General, it made it more fashionable, because then you had another great movie called Blood on Satan's Claw.
Okay, Mark, you need to send me all these movies, please, because I love it.
I'm happy to do so. And the Wicker Man was another one.
I love The Wicker Man. Okay, so now I love.
I love Wicker Man. I love that one.
I love The Wicker Man.
Yeah, I like that one.
The dialogue was just gorgeous. Those characters, those people knew how to act. Now we need more actors like that. Seriously, we really do.
Yeah, I mean, the version I've got is a director's cut, which is 20 minutes before the screen credits, where you find out a little bit about Edward Woodward's police sergeant.
Ooh.
And I mean, that's something that's in some versions isn't there. You just see him, you know, you kind of guess he's religious from the start, but then you learn, you know, he disapproves of, you know, dancing on the Sabbath, and he's keeping himself pure for his forthcoming wedding, which is basically subject to ridicule for his fellow police officers and so on. So you can see why he was a perfect choice when he arrives at Summer Island.
Yeah,
yeah.
I love how they immersed. I know this isn't the right movie to talk about, but I love how they immersed him early into the oddness of the inlet that he's in. It's amazing how they did that.
It's wonderful. So Witchfinder General could be a different movie. It's a lot longer, but like I said, we had a wonderful lady called Jo Bath who was part of this Q&A, and she talked about the fact that you know, the crime of being a witch was non-existent. In the early days, it was used for the English Civil War. You know, it's like if some woman was kind of jealous of another woman because she's prettier and flirting with her husband, that's it, you're a witch. That's it. You know, they'll credit whatever evidence. You know, she was talking to her cat the other day, and that's it.
I think we'd all be witches today then, because I talk to my cat constantly.
Talk to my puppy. So.
But do they talk back? That's the main thing. Then we got coastal worry about.
I confess nothing.
Oh, man.
He's a witch. She's a witch. It's a powerful movie. I mean, the acting, like I said, Vincent Price is superb. People have actually said, I think it was one of the producers of the film said that Michael Reeves brought out the balls in Vinny for the first time in years. And because if you watch maybe the Poe films, you can probably tell straight away, you know, he's having a great time.
Is this the same Vincent Price that's in the original House on Haunted Hill?
That the man himself. I've got that DVD. That's.
I knew I was familiar with it. I'm like, I know this guy. I know him like.
Obviously,
wow.
The film had the effect. You saw. I love the House on Haunted Hill. It's one of my favorites, and of course, I regard it as vintage Vinny because that is the persona that he puts himself in. You know, he was always immaculate, elegant, always well spoken. He has the moustache was a trademark feature and so on, and he always played those kind of flamboyant characters. When he played Matthew Hopkins, it was a different character altogether. He played
See, now I'm definitely going to rewatch for this value because I am an avid Vincent Price fan, people. So you want to talk Vinny? Let's talk Vinny because I could Vinny all day long.
I have to keep this framed.
Oh,
I know it's turning glass there, but it's Victoria
you
Price.
got a picture with him?
Oh my God!
That's a picture of his daughter. It was at a screening.
Why?
Wow!
Why did you do that to me? Why?
It was a screening at of The Pit and the Pendulum at Darlington Film Club, another place I would recommend. And I had a chance to meet Victoria. She did a wonderful talk on her dad, and of course getting to meet her. And I was obviously nervous. I had a copy of my book to give to her, my first book. I was telling her I was doing a book on her dad. She sounded thrilled to bits. And I thing is, I'm left-handed. Of course, left-handers, my handwriting is appalling, and it got even worse because my hands were shaking like that. And I'm sorry, Victoria. I'm sorry about it's terrible. She says, "Oh, that's all right." So my mother's handwriting was worse than that, and that was it. So made me feel better. But she was a nice lady. She's not a horror movie fan as such, but for the fans. And she really is a daddy's girl. She really has a great deal of affection for her father, and it was a pleasure meeting her, and so on. It really was. And
okay, you can stop rubbing salt in the wound now. I'm so jealous now. I'm woman enough to admit it.
There's a number of good actors. If you're familiar with him at all, we mentioned Ian Ogilvy. He could have been a good James Bond in his day, and he was like Michael Reeves' best friend. He plays like the hero, with Hilary Dwyer as his the love interest, whose uncle is played by a wonderful Welsh actor called Rupert Davies, who was best known as Inspector Maygrey in the 60s. But unfortunately, he didn't quite find any roles to equal that, and he did a lot of horror films. He did quite a few with Vincent Price. He did a few with Christopher Lee. He died.
I love Christopher Lee. I'm still saddened by the loss. I really am. I'm hurt.
I'm still devastated. It was when Vincent Price died. I was actually on vacation to visit my pen pal, and she was living in Columbus, Ohio at the time, and it was during October 1993.
That's my dad's hometown. That's where my dad's from.
Cool, yeah. Well, Holly's originally she's from Pittsburgh originally. She's back there now. At the time she was living in Columbus. I thought lovely city. I really liked it. It was really wonderful. And that's when he announced the news that he died. I mean, he was 82, so he'd had a long life, but I wasn't aware of how ill he was. My favourite horror actor is Peter Cushing. And he died the following. But I knew how ill he was. It wasn't less of a shock.
Damn it, Stan! We lost Stan Lee and Jack.
Wow.
And it's just like, oh my God, stop, please.
Well, I've got to say, I'm a James Bond fan. I'm devastated.
Oh, with Connery. Oh my God, I cried when Sean Connery died. I will admit it. And I'm like, I am biting my fingernails. I'm like, if Tim Burton dies, I'm done. I'm like, if Tim Burton dies next, I'm so
knock on wood, something.
If Keith Richards dies, it's the end of the world.
All right.
Yes, right.
You got Keith Richards, Betty White, and Willie Nelson. If all three of those go, that's it. We're done for.
Yeah, we're done. Yeah. No.
What about Betty White?
Oh man.
Yes, she is. She's in her 90s.
She's like, what, 95?
I think so.
Ian Ogilvy is still alive. He, in his later years, he did a lot of television. He did quite a few movies, and he went on. And he did quite a lot of horror films. Witchfinder General wasn't the only one.
I actually know that name. I can't keep because you kept cutting out when you said his name. I'm like,
oh yes.
I'm like, and then I caught you now. It's like Ian Ogilvy. It's like I know that name.
Well, in the late 70s, he took over Roger Moore's role as Simon Templar, the Saints, and then in the 80s, he moved to America, where he said he was out to conquer Hollywood. He said it didn't quite happen, but he had fun trying. But he's quite a successful actor, and he's also an author of children's books. So he's living in the States.
Oh, whereabouts?
I'm not in California. I'm not sure where. And he's 77 now. And still a good-looking guy. And the other actors, if you look down the cast, his best friend in the film was played by Nicky Henson, who died last year, who was very popular on TV. We also had playing Oliver Cromwell was Patrick Weimar, who did a lot of horror films, including Blood on Satan's Claw, which was his last film. He died at the age of 44. Though if you see him as Cromwell, you can tell he looks about 20 years older. He was a guest star. And finally, now I don't know how you found British TV comedies, because I'll tell you a little bit of a story when we were watching the movie. It might be a bit lost on you if you're not familiar with Steptoe and Son. It was a British sitcom. It's about a rag and bone man and his son, and they have a lovely relationship. And the father is played by Wilfrid Brambell, who plays an Irish horse seller in one scene. So when we were watching the movie, at the Q&A thing, me and Stephen Laws looked around the audience, because you could tell people if they weren't laughing, they were humming. I'm sure they were humming the Steptoe and Son theme tune, which is quite a familiar one. Check them out, because he was basically playing the same character, but several hundred years earlier, Steptoe's ancestor. And it just, for me, because it was a tough, uncompromising movie. When he turned up, I just burst out laughing. Totally ruined it. That one bit. I think back then he wasn't as well known. I mean, he's long. So it was a decent cast of actors in the movie, and many of them, like Ian Ogilvy, went on to much better things. I mentioned Hilary Dwyer. She did several films with Vincent. She did The Oblong Box and Cry of the Banshee with him, and even worked with Ian Ogilvy again in a film version of Wuthering Heights, before she left acting to become a successful film and TV producer.
No, I'm familiar with her too.
Yeah,
I know her too. She did the. I just recently watched a movie with her and Benny in the same. I don't remember what it's called, because it's not like a Halloween movie, but I recognized the name when you said it twice. I was like, oh, that one.
You could say he played. It was said that she played his mistress, if you like. I think that's probably not the right word in the Witchfinder General. Played his wife in The Oblong Box and played his daughter in Cry of the Banshee. And the story was that Vinny says, if you play my mother in the next film, I'll marry you.
Wow.
Yeah.
But in every role, why not?
Of course, yeah. Interesting enough, when The Oblong Box came out, it was his first film with Christopher Lee. They both have the same birthday. Younger, he says, but that's a lie, as Vinny once pointed out. And Peter Cushing's birthday is the day before, so all three of them had, there's a very strong link with Gemini there.
Nice.
So, like I said, it's not an easy film to watch, and a hard one to enjoy. But when you do watch it, it's quite fulfilling, because I know Brooke, you just said before, it didn't quite set any fires up, lit any fires for you, did it?
I think that was Carly that said that.
Carly, was it Carly? I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I said it too.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, it's
like I did like the witches in it, but it just didn't grasp my attention.
Yeah.
I know. I think now, knowing more about the story, going back and watching it again will be a different experience.
Well, with my book, Vincent Price, The British Connection, I mean, the first half is about his early life and his links to Britain. The second half of the book about all the British films he made, including Witchfinder General, where there'll be a bit more detailed account of how the film was made. The deal that Tygon had with AIP, getting Vinny to play the part of Matthew Hopkins, and his relationship with Michael Reeves. It's all in there. And so, it'd be worth a read. Interesting enough, I mentioned about Matthew Hopkins, the real one, he died of tuberculosis at the age of 27. So when you think about it, Vincent Price, Boris Karloff, all miscast because they were all far too old for the part. I mean, Donald Pleasance being the youngest, only been a couple of years older than Vinny.
Wow.
And it was just like, who could play the part? Really, I mean, age-wise, Ian Ogilvy would probably have been a better choice. So you'd probably want someone that's a bit more intense. maybe an Oliver Reed or something like that would have been more acceptable, I think.
Yeah.
So I think at the end of the day, it was it's a movie. And I believe that I've not read Donald Bass's book, but Hopkins is a bit of a creepy type, creepy, ugly little man who's someone who would climb on a horse and then fall right off it again because he can't ride the damn thing. And that's why they felt, Pleasance was the right choice. But then when he brought Vincent in, it was all very different because he was far from that. He was a total opposite.
Right.
But anyway, it's, I would say, one of my favourite movies.
Wow.
I want to watch. I prefer Vinny when he camps it up and out in Holy Hill, but I'm saying that he's a very good Hopkins in this.
I would definitely have to rewatch it.
I'll be interested in your thoughts as well.
Yeah.
You can get certain films you can watch and think, well, all right, it was all right, but I don't know why it was. People went on about how brilliant it is, and then when you watch it again, you can learn. You can see why.
That's typically what I do. Is I watch it the first time and try to get general ideas. Next time is when the analytical person comes out. So I think that giving it like 2 and 3 times to watch might actually be because the first time I watched Monty Python, I thought it was completely dumb. I'll be honest. I was like, no, I cannot finish this. I actually walked away and left my husband snort laughing. And then I came back and I watched it. I'm like, oh my God, why did I not finish this?
Right. Well, I love Monty Python from the beginning, though.
I can just laugh, man. I've watched Life of Brian so many times.
Yeah.
I know the script.
And knowing those movies and then going to see Spamalot was fantastic.
Oh, on stage, yeah. I know. Was it Eric Idle, wasn't it? He did.
I have not seen that yet.
Well, mine was a touring company. It wasn't on Broadway, but it was so much fun. So much fun.
Oh yeah, I could see that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely fun.
Wow.
Yes.
Man,
that's what it is. So again, just a great movie. And the box, what I've got in my box set is actually
I'm after rewatch.
Michael Reeves. About the life of Michael Reeves. Not that it was a very long life, but it was certainly an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
And when you consider that he'd only made 3 films as director, and suddenly he's got a massive cult status on the strength of that. And it's just a shame thing that he never.
Wow.
I wouldn't like to know if would he have become a big name? I don't know. You get a lot of promising British directors score great British movies. And then maybe, all right, they might be successful in Hollywood, but he can't quite equal the same kind of impact. I don't know. I mean, because not the case with other directors. Because we don't have a British film industry really. A few movies get made, and that's it. And Hollywood, a lot of British actors and directors would rather go off to Hollywood.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Hollywood. If you don't have Marvel, well, actually today at all, it's mostly streaming, isn't it? It's like,
right, mostly streaming.
Mostly streaming now.
It is now. We got it the same. It's just like what the hell's going on? We're talking about when the next James Bond movie is going to come out. Well, they're determined to put it out in the cinema.
Yeah. Well,
I hope so.
see.
Yeah.
I'm kind of afraid of 2021 now. It's like, do I just want to leave this gate closed or do I want to open space?
Well, I had the idea of why can't if we switch 2020 off and switch it back on again, it might not be so bad.
Yeah, right.
That's what it is. Every big band. I'm a big. I think Brooke's got me on Facebook as we're friends, and I don't know if she's seen me attempt to sing because I'm a performer. I play guitar, and I used to play bass guitar. And I do miss performing. I miss I miss getting up and playing a guitar at a pub or something. I just can't do it, and it's frustrating. We've got a lot of friends of mine who are professional musicians having a hard time with the whole thing. It's not. Yeah, 2020 sucks.
Yeah,
I've got a friend
it really
I have
does.
a friend who's in the touring industry, and the touring industry it's done. It's at a standstill. And he's got that's his bread and butter. Well, the bread and the butter are gone right now.
Yeah. That's awful. I mean, I've had that much sanitizer on my hands. I'm going to take my hands to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right? I like that. You need to make a shirt. Make that a shirt. I will buy some.
That's funny.
Make that a shirt. That would sell so like hotcakes. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah. So yeah. So decided because
Wow.
my hands constantly drunk at work, I just decided I'm just going to drink wine instead, just whilst to try and catch up with what's happened to my hands.
Yeah, make that. I'm telling you, somebody needs to make that a shirt. Seriously, or something. That would be hilarious.
So somebody out there that's watching that's watching this, make it a shirt.
Make it a shirt. Yeah. If we got a graphic designer in the audience,
you know what? We could have Ashley do it. Ashley knows how.
Well, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I would buy one. And then...
She had to work.
Sure, it's the sanitizer's coming to town instead of Santa Claus.
Oh my gosh! Is somebody writing these down?
That's good.
I need to. I'll send one to Brooke. It's now that's what I call music. I don't know if the album in the States, but we go. That's what I call a COVID Christmas, which has got stuff like that, And they've done a whole load of COVID. So it's a spoof.
It's funny. Yeah,
that is hilarious.
That Johnny Mathis singing "It Comes to Pass When a Mask is Worn." That kind of stuff. So
that is hilarious. Oh my gosh, I'm so
funny. They still got lots of captions.
Okay, I need a link to that. I'd so buy that CD.
Yeah, I mean each song is like 2 minutes.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I'll send it on. I'll send it to you. I'll send it just about it to everybody. I just didn't send it to anybody from the States because I wasn't sure kind of like understood it.
We were our first time yesterday. We were out and about in our city. We have this annual. I'm from the town of Bonnie and Clyde, so I'm living in their hometown, and we were literally everybody was wearing masks. And we have 2 events every year called Christmas in the Square and Bonnie and Clyde Days. And unfortunately, we were all devastated. Like the whole town was devastated because we canceled Bonnie and Clyde Days, and everybody around that always came in was like, "What?" So we finally tried to have Christmas in the Square yesterday.
Wow.
We were all wearing masks, and the people are like, "Why are you wearing a mask?" It's like, unfortunately, it's a rule.
Because there's a lot of music festivals. We have the Blues Festival. One of my favorites is the Americana Festival. I'm a big fan of Americana music, and we have it every July at the Sage Opera House. Last year, there's the outdoor stage where you can see lots of free bands, and you get from not just from America, from Canada, from parts of Europe, and local. And last year we got tickets to see Kiefer Sutherland.
Nice.
He was good. The support band was a guy called Jesse Dayton, and he had to be about the coolest dude I have ever met in my entire life. The man was just oozing the cool. I went and bought an album, saying I've got to get this guy's album. He's absolutely brilliant, and he was just great. So we got to see him again. It's marvelous. So, but you can imagine the absolutely amazing bands on. I think Katie Lang this last year was headlining. But this year was all cancelled, like everything else.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's been canceled.
Wow. Nice.
Now I know Trans-Siberian Orchestra is doing a virtual tour this year, and I was actually devastated by that because I saw them in person, and oh my gosh, if you have not seen them in person, y'all, you have to see them at least once.
All right.
It is an experience, I'm here to tell you. So
I'll check them out. It's the kind of place I would go to the Sage Opera House. It's just a wonderful venue for great live music. I also like local pub bands as well. I mean, I just follow the blues scene and the country music scene as well. It's just taking me down.
Don't worry, I'm from the sticks, so
I was performing with a friend of mine. We were doing as a duet at the Crossing the Tyne Festival, and it was kind of like real fun doing that. But now it's all kind of that got cancelled too. So,
well, here's hoping next year we actually get some openings.
Hopefully next year I can go to a pub and have a drink.
That would be nice. Yeah. It's like you have to walk in a restaurant to wear your mask and be like, how am I supposed to eat this? I'm not even sure how I'm supposed to eat this.
Right. Man.
But we were the same. We got hit too, Carly. We're actually a mobile books. We have a mobile bookstore, and we were unable to actually go around and with our books. And my husband started making homemade candles, which sold really, really well. And so we just shifted to our publishing company. So that did really good because we're mostly online. So
Yeah. It hasn't really affected what I do. It's affecting sales, but it's not affecting what I do. So I've gotten lucky there, if that makes any sense.
I still travel to work. I'm a civil servant. I still travel to work. So in a sense, I'm lucky, but it's always been pretty stressful what's going on. But on the whole, we're stuck where we are. We just got to make the best of it.
Which is why we're watching all these movies and reviewing them for everybody.
Exactly. Right. We're recording. We're exchanging books and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I've got a load of Vincent Price movies I could watch over again. I can discuss it with you at another time, but maybe one that's more for you. Witchfinder General, maybe you want something that's a bit more like House of Now that I've understood StreamYard works and all that, and I will remember next time I go shopping, I'll get myself headphones.
Okay, that works.
That might be good, yeah. But I want them. I'm serious. I want those titles.
It's got the microphone.
I want some of those movie titles because I'm looking for movies to watch. It's like
ones. I'll see what I'll draw them up. I'll definitely draw them up. Because we got there's some great folk horror.
I love folk horror. Like the one I most recently watched was called The Wretched. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that, but it is actually folk horror, and it is one of the most splendid renditions of this particular. You saw it? Did you see it?
I can't. I'll have to check that out. My favourite, if you like, recent folk horrors was, I would say recent, it was made a few years ago. It was called Ravenous.
Yes, I know Ravenous. Ravenous.
It was released the following week after the Blair Witch Project, which, to be honest, I thought was a bit overrated. It gave me an absolute spit after I watched it, and then watched Ravenous the following week. I love this. You know, I've even got the soundtrack. It's just a brilliant music.
I tried to watch Blair Witch again, and what I've noticed about it was like I really want to fire the cameraman. It's like you're wrestling with my dizziness, vertigo here. Can we just stay still? Stay still.
It does leave because they've done loads of what they call them camcorder copplers. Nice way to describe them. When I've seen several, I've seen both versions of what's this film? The Spanish film. Oh, can't think of it now, but it was an American version as well. That's kind of same thing. And George Romero did Diary of the Dead, and I got myself thinking when you're watching these movies, what you're going to do is you're going to get menaced by some nut job or some zombie or whatever, and you got a camera. You know how big the camera? What are you going to do? You're going to film it. I mean, I probably just sling it and just run a spot.
Here, film this. Leave the zombie to film its own movie and run.
Man.
At least they have an excuse for the family on their.
That's my thing. Yeah, it's sometimes I know it's only a movie. Sometimes it does sort of like this is still ridiculous anyway. But yeah, I mean, I've got several Vinny movies. I mean, I've got likes of Theatre of Blood is one of my all-time favourite Vincent Price films. I've got Five Riders again, Scream and Scream again, which are all like all great Vincent Price movies. But Theatre of Blood's my favourite.
No, I have to see that
and
one.
have you seen that one?
I have not seen that one, and I've seen most of the movies.
I would suggest you watch that one. And if you want me back again, I'd like to come back again.
Hey, you're welcome to chat with us on Facebook anytime, I guess. I mean, I'm going to chat anytime.
Of course, yeah. I'm trying to think. I'm not friends with you, Raven. I'm not sure yet. I can't remember now.
This here is a pen name. Sorry, this here is a pen name. It's my husband and I's horror name. I'm actually Blaze Ramsey.
Blake Ramsey. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll look for you. And I'll look for you, Carly. And
All right.
we'll link up, and yeah, that'll be fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But anything to do with Vinny?
It was nice chatting with you.
Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm surrounded by three beautiful women. What more can I ask for?
Yeah.
You know, on a Sunday evening.
Listen to him. Listen to him. I love you.
Yep. With some flowers.
You know, every day I have got hundreds of beautiful women constantly banging on my front door. But no matter how hard they try, they
That's most horror authors don't get have people banging on their doors. They're running from us. Like you walking psychopaths.
I'm never sure about, you know, I've got very, you know, as you say, I've got a very English sense of humour, so I've got to say, you have to watch yourself, because America, though I love American stuff, I could sit and watch Frasier every day.
Frasier.
Yeah, Frasier, and I could watch The Nanny. I did. So I just love those. I love American shows.
If you like Frasier, you might enjoy House. Have you ever watched House with Hugh Laurie?
Yeah, I've seen bits of it. You know,
I love him. He's hilarious.
He always played our class English twits in the early days when he was Stephen Fry. So it's a bit weird he's playing someone else. I mean, he's very good, and he's playing a straight role. You know, he's not darkly comic, but not the kind of roles I'm used to seeing him play. It's good performance. It's very good.
Well, if anybody has ever seen 101 Dalmatians, the one with Glenn Close, they know that Dr. House and the author Weasley were her.
Right. Yes.
Her henchmen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did fantastic. And then he was also in Stuart Little, and that was in the daddy role. And I was like, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Right, so I've got to get going.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
He did a British series called Jesus Moves Fry. And where he plays an upper class English twit.
But it was nice talking to you all.
It is, yeah, I'm rambling. Okay.
It was nice talking to you all.
You too.
Nice talking to you all. I'll go brush up my American accent. It sounds dreadful.
And next week we will be finally discussing it.
Yes,
both the original and the new versions.
Okay.
And we'll also be celebrating my birthday, y'all.
Okay, well, I will
celebrating.
Well, I'll listen to you guys. I will listen to you. I haven't seen. It's been years since I've seen the first it, and I got to see the second. And I don't think I'll get around to seeing the second one, so I'll have to give it a miss. You'll have to, if you can find a movie that I have seen or I can see, let me know.
All right.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Can I do one?
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye now. You take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right. What do I do? I've got to leave here now, haven't I?
Hit leave.
All right.
Right.
Okay. All right. How do I get out?
It'll end eventually.